Hello, my name is Saberspark, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the story of how World of Warcraft almost ruined my life. I can only imagine a few folks right now watching the video are like, hey bro, over here, I got my own story. I got my own version of this. And you know what? There's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about how relatable this tale, this particular decline that so many other folks who played WoW went through. It's a testament to the Pandora's box that was open from this caliber of game, how it impacted folks in a cavalcade of ways. I'm pretty sure cavalcade's the right word, in a variety of ways. How about that? From those who had addiction problems to the game, to those who were forming their first versions of parasocial relationships, to those who couldn't even see their life beyond World of Warcraft. It was all-encompassing to them. And it was honestly a frontier that many folks who played this game were not acquainted with. It was a brand new realm for them. And that, I swear to you, is not a sarcastic joke about the type of game that WoW is. Let me load in real fast, all right? Here we go, loading bar. Let's begin. World of Warcraft, for those who don't know, is an MMORPG, which is a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And there have been games before WoW that fell into that genre, that try to push the envelope and that genre of gaming, where you have folks across the world online with their characters interacting, going on adventures, fighting monsters, but none of them could really do it the same way that WoW could. WoW had this je ne sais quoi about it, something that made it stand out. And I would say it's a combination of just the allure of Warcraft as a story, with its characters, with its aesthetic, its fantasy, with orcs and trolls, humans, demons and night elves, and just all the magic that is part of that story that was very well cultivated at that point via Warcraft 1, 2, 3, and then to the RTS players and their demise, it became an MMORPG instead. That was a bit of a shocker, because part of it, I remember kid me playing Warcraft 3, loving it, and then they announced WoW, which was told to me via my cousin Brian back in the mid-2000s. Brian here was my dealer. He was the guy who was like, hey Steven, let me tell you about this new game called World of Warcraft and how it works. Here's all this literature for it. Brian was like 4 or 5 years older than me at the time. I was, 8th, 9th grade. So I looked up to Brian as like my older cousin hero. He knows everything. I admire him. I love his sass. I love how he's just so sure-footed, because all teenage men, boys, know what they're doing, right? Or so child me perceived. And just hearing about Warcraft and him just making it so romanticized, where he's like, I went on a raid with 10 other Alliance soldiers. We had a huge battle with a bunch of orcs, and every single orc character was another player across the world. And I was dumbfounded. I'm like, what? You can do that in World of Warcraft? That's insane. It's like that one show called Reboot, where you can load in and multiplayer play. And that's exactly it, right, Brian? No, more or less, whatever. So I can't really underline this enough. World of Warcraft was more than just a game. It was a social experiment. And it was many kinds of experiments, to be honest. You've heard the stories of how the CDC looked at one of these events in the game called the Blood of Hakkar, and how it spread, how it would jump from player to player, and how it would wipe out entire servers because it was that contagious. And the CDC took note of that as an experiment of how sickness and viruses can spread. Wow, how topical to this day and age we live in, right? There's the entire deal with the economy of Warcraft, with the gold, with the items, with the auction house. And of course, the part that's the most interesting to me is the social aspect of being able to talk to players, to build relationships, to join guilds, to hop into Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, and interact with folks online, and also jump into a game and talk to them, to, hey, let's go do this activity. Let's go fight these monsters. Let's go on to this dungeon. Let's go raid this city. It was a living, breathing community online, one that was before Facebook and YouTube, one that was miles ahead of any other website that would eventually introduce its own social media circle. Like Warcraft existed before social media blew up. It was in the infancy years, in the mid-2000s and the late 2000s. And social media, of course, would catch up and just become all-encompassing itself, where it's like, you don't have a Twitter, you don't have a Facebook. I mean, well, a lot of us are trying to get out of that one, aren't we? But the groundbreaking achievement of what Warcraft provided for nerds online was just otherworldly. And I was at the forefront of that wave. When ninth grade me was able to find friends online who I could actually click with, that blew my mind. Because school was a bit abrasive, as it is for most kids growing up. You can't really find your forever friends there. The pool of people to pick from is relatively shallow. But online, I had dealer's choice. I could be friends with like-minded friends and colleagues and go raiding with them into the wee hours of the morning. And that felt like I had my first friends. Like, hey, Mom, I'm going to go hang out with Buff Me, or I'm going to go hang out with Psychosis or whatever. And she's like, what? Are those your classmates in school? No, Mom, they're friends online. See you later. And so began that chapter of my life, to realize that my family wasn't very supporting of my addiction to World of Warcraft. And for that very reason, it was an addiction. I have ADD. I get tunnel vision. When something is at the forefront of my mind, I obsess over it. And up to this point in my life, I obsessed over like cartoons. I obsessed over Halo 2. I obsessed over Lego. But they all paled in comparison to the whirlwind, to the maelstrom that would be World of Warcraft. And I mean, I begged my parents at first. I'm like, Mom, Dad, please, I got to get this game and play online with cousin Brian, please. And because we had dial-up at the time, we had an awful computer, and I had to like encourage them, let's get DSL, let's get better hardware. And they begrudgingly agreed, and I was able to finally get online. I felt like a scientist, a computer scientist trying to download this game. It was excruciating. All the patches, all the work, but I just wanted this. It was my objective, my goal, my drive, and I channeled all my energy into it. I finally got into the game. My buddy Robert next door, he allowed me to get on his computer and also download the game because he had faster internet. And I was able to use an account, which I begged my parents to let me use their credit card so I can pay for the monthly expense, which for a lot of folks at the time, they're like, monthly expenses? Is this a magazine subscription? What's this about? And I convinced my parents. I said, it's the last game I'll ever play. Never have to buy me another video game again. I'm fine. Just let me play Warcraft. So, and this is where things start to get a little bit, I guess the ripple effect starts to shoot out a bit. So Robert here, and we're still very good friends to this very day. I love it. He was like, yeah, you can use my computer. I'm going to sit here and watch The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler while I download World of Warcraft on his computer. And I hopped into the game. I met a human warrior named Saber Steve. And for those who don't know, that was the precursor to Saberspark, my online alias. It was Saber Steve at first. And Robert looked at the game and he's like, what's that? It looks cool. I want to play. And just like a drowning victim, I grabbed onto Robert and I pulled him into the depths with me. And he too began his journey of becoming addicted to World of Warcraft. And yeah, at that point, I think the family started to wise up where they're like, you're playing this game for like 4 hours a day. And I would sneak downstairs at night into the family's office on our home computer, and I would play until like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I hear the of like the footsteps upstairs because our family computer was in our basement because we had a finished basement. And I could hear my mom walking down the stairs. And I'm like, oh, I'm a dead man. I can't escape it. There's only one way out of the basement. And she's walking down that path. I'm done. And I get screamed at. I would go to school. I would crunch numbers of how much experience I required to level up and get my level 40 mount. I remember finally getting to level 60, going on raids, meeting folks online who were super kind and sweet, and other ones who betrayed me and stole gear. And I was just like a dumb teenage boy learning about online interactions unchecked. It was bad, to the point where my parents were like, we have to put a time limit on the game where it logs you out at a certain time. And I guess they were able to achieve that. My mom and dad were like, we activated this curfew in a way on my account, because Warcraft lets you do that. And at 11 p.m., it would always knock me off. So I was just counting down the days where I could just escape and be on my own and play Warcraft whenever I wanted to. And that presented itself in my freshman year of college. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the beginning of the true decline of me and my addiction and the tidal wave of drama that would follow because I could not control myself when it came to playing World of Warcraft. It began with me finding a college in North Georgia, because I lived in Georgia, and it was called the North Georgia College and State University. That was the school I went to. And my dad helped me to get a laptop, and I was like so psyched about it. I have my own laptop. It's mine. I can get on here and play video games whenever I want. And I moved in with my older sister because she was into her like sophomore year at the college, and we lived in an apartment together. And I would just play Warcraft all the time. I actually got a second account that did not have the restriction with the curfew, but it wasn't as good of a character. So that was frustrating. So my main character was limited where I can start playing at 8 a.m., but it would turn off at 11 p.m. And then my second account was just me goofing off, talking to folks. And I would play this game for like 6 hours a day at least. And my schoolwork just fell to the wayside. I didn't care about college. I went to the classes. As soon as I was done with the class, I would run to the library with the free internet and just play Warcraft. Play it from me arriving after my afternoon classes, getting some lunch at like the cafeteria, and playing all the way until 11 p.m. at night. And there are so many moments where I'm like, guys, we have to finish this raid here. My curfew is about to kick in, and my account's about to be logged out. It got so bad that I went on this raid with my my guild at the time. And I became somewhat infamous with this guild for all my neurotic behavior, because I would beg them, like, let's go to these raids early. Let me get my loot early. My curfew's arriving here any minute now. There was a time when the power went out at my apartment. It was around like 9 p.m. at night, and it was around Christmas time. And I went down to the town square and I unplugged Christmas lights to plug my laptop in next to a coffee shop that still had its internet up. And I played a raid near this coffee shop, and I unplugged Christmas lights so I could run my laptop. I played out of my car as well, in the trunk. I have photos of this, of me playing Warcraft out of the trunk of my Hyundai Accent hatchback. That's how dedicated I was. I found love in the game. I just want to slap college me. I had no idea what love was. I found an online girlfriend, and I was smitten by her. We even had our own like World of Warcraft wedding, which was crashed by some enemy faction and wiped us. And that was an entire another like just whirlwind of drama with my first quote unquote relationship with my online girlfriend. It's my online girlfriend. We play Warcraft together. That's how we date. And our date night is to go kill bad guy. And by the way, I don't say this to diss anybody who has that kind of relationship. That's fine. But for me personally, on a micro level, I was not nearly mature enough or responsible enough to handle the level of free reign I had with me ignoring my college duties, my classes, my well-being, and instead channeling it all into the addiction of Warcraft and also my online girlfriend. And this is where things started to get ugly. My sophomore year of college, I moved into a dorm, and I had 3 other roommates. And I continued my Warcraft addiction, where I kept playing the game just for hours on end. And then the online relationship started to sour, where we just weren't compatible. There were some things that she did that I was like, that really hurts me. And it ultimately blew up in my face, where like I was so dedicated though to save this relationship via Warcraft that I completely neglected all of my classes to the point where the college pulled me aside and said, you are going to flunk out of school, and that's that. You're on academic probation. And if you can't get out of academic probation, you are like dismissed from our college. And my parents were like, Steven, we don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're not going to help yourself, then this is the end. And the girl who I was with did something that really hurt me, like profoundly. I won't get into the details, but it was a big violation of my trust, massive. And I felt like a fool. I felt like a complete fool. And then I had a retrospective moment looking back at how, for the last 3 or 4 years of my life, this game just controlled me. I felt like a puppet. And it's not the game's fault. It's not the fault of the players. It's my fault. It's my fault for not being responsible for me. And it was like the first moment of mature clarity of my life. And I still feel that feeling, that memory, that moment to this very moment, seeing my parents not be angry at me, but just genuinely disappointed and also out of options of helping me. They've done everything they could to help me. It was now time for me to help myself. And the daggers of this relationship, I finally pulled them out, and I'm like, we're not right for each other. I'm done with you, which the girl freaked out and tried to win me back. And I was like, we're not saving this, we're done. And then I stopped playing Warcraft as much, and I started focusing more on school. And I was able to get out of academic probation. And then here's the funniest thing of all. I tried time and time again to stop playing Warcraft, even to the point where I took, like, back in my senior year of high school, I took the disc to the forest in my backyard, and I took an axe and I shattered them with the axe. I'm like, put thee to death, game, and may you have no control over me any longer. The disc pieces shattered across the forest, which was a very poorly executed idea because it just went everywhere. It's just stupid. And there'd be times I go back to the backyard to dump leaves from raking, later on, and I'd see parts of the disc still, like, in the forest. And I'm like, it's a reminder that I can shatter it physically, but the metaphysical elements, the online elements, they still have me. So here's the thing, though. The game itself, as much as I tried to pull myself away from it, I'd still come back to it and play, just not as much. But then the game itself, because this is around the time where, like, Wrath of the Lich King was coming to a conclusion, and the next game called Cataclysm was on the horizon. And little did we all know that would be the official peak of Warcraft. And from that point on would begin the gradual decline that is still continuing to this very day. Cataclysm was a failure in a big way. And I say that knowing financially Warcraft still made big bucks and Blizzard was rolling in it, but you started to lose the initial fan base and the magic started to decline because the game changed in such, I guess, meaningful ways where just the entire pursuit of earning something was being erased by just giving it away. And that turned me off from it. I'm like, it's not as rewarding as it once was. And the online craziness of my relationships with my friends or whatever was starting to also erode. And I found myself not feeling as connected with the game. I almost felt like the shackles fell off on their own because the game wasn't as engaging. And that would continue on until I was officially just done with the game. Not through my own indomitable spirit to say I'm done with you, but more of the game releasing me saying I'm no longer interesting to play. And that was that. And I feel bad because I really dragged my family through the mud with this. I pulled other friends into the game and put them through their own trials and tribulations with addictions, with being tunnel vision on a game that just demanded everything from you in a manner of speaking. And then, of course, to myself, where I almost flunked out of college. But it brought me to such a low point where it gave me the ability to reflect and, for the first real time in my life, reflect on my impact as a person and my own autonomy, my own agency with my decision making, and how it ultimately impacts me and shapes my life. And I did overcome it. And to this day, I will always look back on World of Warcraft as one of the most influential games in my life for introducing me to the world of online social interactions, building online relationships, or communicating with folks online. Because I'm talking to you all via YouTube, and I have a YouTube channel where I talk to thousands of people, and my reach is quite far, which is I'm very blessed about. I have my Twitter account. I have all these things to talk to folks online in ways that just eclipse my Warcraft days like 1,000 times over. But it feels a lot more restrained because I have a lot more control now. compared to me salivating and being so just hungry for interactions and gold and equipment and status in World of Warcraft. I don't feel that as much anymore. I don't feel it really at all. I'm all about meaningful relationships and being responsible versus being just unhinged during my high school years and my early college years. So it's weird to think that it happened in a very passive way, in a manner of speaking. But hey, I'll take it, and I learned from it. And I even came back to Warcraft just for a little bit to try it out. That was the ultimate send-off, where I realized I just don't feel the same way about this game as I used to, and I'm done with it. So to all the folks who play WoW, who have fun with it, good on you. And to Warcraft for what it achieved as a milestone for online interactions, both for video games and in a roundabout way, the introduction of social media in a way, I acknowledge that. And I wouldn't take it back. I'm glad I'm better now. It definitely put me through the ringer, but sometimes you need to be brought low in order for you to rise up from it. And I'm lucky enough to be one of the few people to overcome it. Because I know a lot of other folks struggled and weren't as lucky as I. So that's my story about how World of Warcraft almost destroyed my life, how it almost made me flunk out of college, put me through a really bad relationship, how it almost severed my relationships with real life friends and my family became distrusting of me, and then the ultimate rebound of it all, where I was able to reflect and move forward and be better. So World of Warcraft, you're one hell of a game, good and bad. I wouldn't change the world for you because I do appreciate the path you put me on. And I wouldn't be doing YouTube and video games if it wasn't for you. Saber Steve became Saberspark, and I'm quite certain the boot camp that I went through online, the training of learning how to talk to people, and what I learned from being brought so low impacted me to the point where I carry those lessons to this very day. And they very much so help me and arm me with how I conduct myself nowadays as a content creator and how I need to be responsible for myself and for others. So if any of you have a story about going through the crucible via World of Warcraft, let me know. I think it's a very humanizing thing to share these stories, how it impacts us and how we can rise from it. So, yep, let's go raid Molten Core, right? Go get the Hammer of Ragnaros. God, I'm even a boomer when it comes to Warcraft stuff.